Of an Sparge SVE trailer that we are selling, and I wanted to go through it a little bit for a potential buyer, and we're going to run around the system and generally say what it is and a description of it. And I have Todd Mixon here with me, and he's going to start by doing a brief description of the controls here. So,
good morning. This system has very basic controls. Currently has no telemetry at all. It's strictly relay based. So everything has a hand-on auto switch. There's an e-stop that's inside the trailer that actually, if you're in there working and you need to shut the system down, you can shut it down. Out here though, to reset any alarms, you have a reset button. Again, you have hand-on auto switch for your air-water separator transfer pump, Sparge unit, and then your SVE hour meters for the Sparge unit and the SVE. I'm going to open this panel, and you'll see that there is no telemetry. Again, it's strictly a relay-based system. So you have power, main power coming in, which is wired now for 230-volt three-phase. Comes down, distributes to the appropriate things. Here's your circuit breakers for lights, outlets, and also for all your 110 control voltage. Again, all your relays that control e-stop, your float switches, and then you have your motor starters. Motor starter for the transfer pump, for your heat exchanger, SVE, and then your air Sparge. There is a motor saver device up here. This device is basically monitoring the main power coming in. If the main power fluctuates down, if you get a high voltage or a low voltage, basically it would trip the system out. Currently, this item does not work, and we have circumvented or bypassed it so that we can demonstrate today. It's a low-cost item, but basically, even if this does not work, you do have overload protection on each individual motor, which would again trip out if you had high or low voltage or any kind of single phasing condition. Your motor starters would trip out. So that's the control panel in a nutshell. And then your main disconnect, which is fused inside, and that's the basics of the controls.
okay, and I would going to take this time to go ahead and just walk around the trailer just to give a visual of what it is. This is, we're walking to the influent of the SVE right here. It currently has a valve, and we are going to be firing up this system in a little bit and watching it run, and we'll be diluting it to get a few vacuums and flows just to demonstrate the blower working in process. The outflow pipe here is the air-water transfer pump that discharges from the air-water separator. And there's two points here that go out to different Sparge points. One could build a manifold here, either for SVE or air Sparge, or both, of course. There's a port right here for the exhaust for vapor phase carbon, and I'm walking around the back here. We have a fold-down door. It works really well. I'm going to leave it folded down for purposes of this demonstration. I'm walking in through the back of the unit here. You can actually see where there were vapor phase carbons on the ground here. It'll accommodate 4 55-gallon drums. I'm walking up to the air Sparge unit, and this is a gas blower. It's two blowers in series. It's 10 horsepower, 230 volt. Everything's fairly well labeled on these. And we have an aftercooler with, we have a temperature sort of on the upstream side, and then over here on the downstream side, going out to the wells. And so I will, when we fire up the system, I'll demonstrate how the cooler is working. It works really well. Here you see the air Sparge, the air water separator with the SVE pump. We have a vacuum gauge that measures inches of water column. This particular one goes up to 50 inches of water column, you'll see. And I'll be showing some readings when we do fire it up. We have an anemometer. That's just our anemometer from the shop here that will measure flow rates. And so the order of things when we get started here is we will turn the system on, and then we will test or demonstrate the operation of the SVE portion with flow rates and vacuums. And then we will demonstrate the compressor building pressure and the cooling of the aftercooler. And then finally we have a small or a 55-gallon drum out in the back where we'll introduce water into the air water separator, and you can see that it operates that way. And the pump, the transfer pump, you can see that operating as well. I did want to point out, we have a side door here. I do want to point out that we do have a cosmetic issue on the outside of the, and it's, if I can get this open here, the door has gotten gouged where it got backed into a pole recently. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a scratch with a dent in it there on both the door and the side panel there. And that is the system in a nutshell. We have it hooked up to our power on a disconnect here in the shop, and we're getting ready to fire it up and demonstrate the things that I have just mentioned. And we've just we're here, and Todd is turning on the system at this point, and so we can see it operate. And once again, we are going to show the demonstration of the SVE unit portion. And I probably will not narrate much, but we are going to, when I go around on the inside here, Todd is going to adjust the vacuum with that valve right there on the outside of the trailer that I indicated. And I will tap on the wall and let him increase the vacuum a little bit so we can see some common running parameters. So here we go. I won't do much talking at this point. So as you can see, I operated it. It's operating around 225 CFM and 10 inches of water column. I'm going to have Todd tighten down the valve on the outside, the dilution valve. About 163 CFM at about 16 inches of water column. CFM, 20 inches of water column. Now we're going to demonstrate the air sparge. Right now the valves are open that would go out to the wells. And Todd is closing one of the valves. You can watch the pressure build. Operating right now at about 170, I believe, on the temperature gauge. And cooling to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the operation of that. There you see the fan running to cool it. Now we're going to demonstrate the operation of the water separator, and I'm going to step out for a second. Todd is just going to introduce the water through the suction line, through the garden hose. So it will be sucking vapors and water, which will simulate what you might find in a formation. And I will go back around. You can see you'll be able to see the water separating in the tank. The air water separator, and just showing the operation of that and the pump in here. So here we go. water pump will kick on when it gets to this float here where my finger is, if I can make that visible. And it's marked with an on or a high switch with the float. So it will take it a couple of minutes to get to that point. Walk around and you can see it discharging outside. And that's about all I wanted to show right now. One thing I did want to point out is that you can shut the, you can actually see that now with pulling water, our anemometer is reading over. It will only read about 300 CFM with a 3-inch pipe on it, so the instrumentation will have to be worked out. Whatever kind of flow you're looking for will have to be worked out. But you can increase the flow and get, of course, over 300, well over 300 if you close the dilution on the intake filter here. So that's about all I wanted to say at this point. And if there are any questions, you can feel free to call me, and we'll be happy to answer any other questions or capture anything else on video.